right, here we go.
All right.
Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. And for a lot of musicians, they didn't necessarily grow up in a musical household. Parents might have been like on the side as a hobby or something, but not necessarily with a parent who's a road dog musician, successful in the music industry, record-based music industry. And I get a chance today to speak to his son, who has continued on in his own way down in Tulsa, playing from his heart and playing from his soul, and recognizing that the most important thing in this life is to make a difference. And that's what my show is about. Matt Teegarden, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hi there. Wow. Really well spoken. Thank you, man.
Yeah, brother. Is it fair to say that, were you, how early on were you spending time like in the studio with your father?
Man, some of my first memories probably are, being there and watching my dad not only play drums, but kind of work and engineer at his studio. And so it was kind of from the get-go, I was around it.
Can you talk about what you picked up on? Like, can you talk about the engineering techniques that he used? I mean, it was such a different vibe. I guess did you have your own studio built into the house?
That was before my time at his at a house with my two brothers. He had a
Oh
studio.
my God, this is legendary stuff.
Yeah,
Go
pretty
ahead, man.
crazy. And then he moved it kind of to a farmhouse south of Tulsa, about 45 minutes. And then now it's near downtown Tulsa, really. It's kind of smack dab in the middle of it. And so I've seen it at two different locations, and it's been amazing seeing the gear change and what stays the same, and now I do a lot of the playing. Growing up, I was seeing him play, and my brother, I have a brother, David Jr., who's a drummer as well. And he's the oldest of the boys.
When they, like, all I'm saying is that you probably are aware of this, but there was like a record made at there was a house in suburban Michigan, I guess.
Yes.
The whole thing that's fascinating to me, I want you to, this is more like, but like, to me, like, there's some concept there that there was no other band that just fronted B3 and drums in the country anywhere, right?
Right.
I mean, is
Yeah,
that fair to say there was no duo that would like tour like that? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, not that I can think of. Close was the Lee Michaels band,
Yeah.
and but that was about it. He played bass though with his left hand, not doing the bass pedals.
Right, exactly.
And Skip
exactly.
Van Winkle,
huge. Yeah, Skip that. Go ahead.
Yeah, he kind of as a kid was like, well, I think you're supposed to walk the bass lines completely with your feet. So that's what I'm going to learn. And so he learned it like that. And so, I mean,
Dude,
what a
this is
spectacle.
unbelievable. So you came, at what point in your dad's life did you and your mom, did you come along? I mean,
I was a bit later in my dad's life. So he was about 50 when I was born. And my mom is his second wife. And then he has two boys, my older brothers, with his first wife. And then I have a sister who's 4 years older than me.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, I mean, what did you, in terms of like, going back to the engineering part of it, what were some of the things that stood out to you as an engineer that he was very savvy at?
God, I mean, his drum mixes were always great, always top notch. And of course, I mean, I want to say now he doesn't do as much engineering because he's not. It's pretty hard for him jumping into Pro Tools and all of that. But I mean, he still can set up mics and all of that, but mainly has a hired engineer for nowadays. But I mean, grew up working with tape and everything at home and everything. I mean, has an amazing story. His first tape recorder he bought from a guy here in Tulsa, and he had JJ Cale come over. They grew up together, and they did some recording on this little Sony 4-track he had. But
That
so
is,
I
I
mean,
mean, that is so freaking absolutely.
that
That's
was very early on, very young. My dad was, yeah.
right. He was in, he hadn't left, he hadn't, where did they move? I thought for some reason I thought they were up in like in the Detroit area.
Yes, my dad, in about 68,
Right.
him and Skip Van Winkle ended up moving up to near Detroit, living outside of there because they were, of course, obsessed with the Motown thing and all of that Detroit sound, but moved there and it was kind of, they realized already came and went, but they established quite a name up there in the late 60s, early 70s as Teegarden and Van Winkle. And that's where they met Bob Seger there. And my dad got kind of linked up with him.
Wow.
And so him, Skip, and Seeger did some shows together, which must have been amazing to see.
Holy cow, man.
Yeah, very early on Seeger too. Yeah.
Early see. There's no tapes of that.
No, but
Wow.
there is a record on YouTube. It
Really?
was released through Capitol called "Smoking OPs," smoking other people's songs, and it's a great album design. It looks like a Lucky Strike package.
Right. Oh
And
man.
every like 20 years, Seeger will release it for a limited time, but it's not like it's really hard to find. But
That
anyway,
is
that
so
has Skip.
dope.
Skip is playing organ and bass on it, and then my dad drums, Seeger's singing, and then a legendary guitar player from Tulsa as well, Mike Bruce. They brought up. He
Wow.
had been touring with Bobby Blue Bland, and
Sure.
yeah, great album. But
I mean,
Seeger, I don't think really cared for it that much later on.
limited time release. There's some nostalgia. Well, that's, I don't know if nostalgia is the right word. Let me ask you just your own personal question. I mean, to me, um, you know, studio recording has been expensive for a long time, and obviously money is different in a lot of ways today than it was then. But still, um, in terms of like, uh, how do you mic the drum kit? I am just someone that lives on records. The way
Yeah,
those early Teegarden and Van Winkle albums, the way they're recorded, there's minimal placement, maybe one overhead or a left right overhead and one for the kick drum, but like today modern
yeah.
recording is like, they mic every part of the drum, and so there's no good leakage. I just wanted you to riff on it.
Right. Well, it's funny. Yeah, I mean, they back then they were broke and working with
Right.
what they had. Like my dad, I've asked him growing up, like, what do you use on this Teegarden and Van Winkle album? He's like, man, I can't freaking remember what car I was driving at that time. But it was a lot of minimal stuff and a lot of using just 3-4 mics on the drums, which I now, because of growing up with all that, am a huge fan of. Like, I love that not only minimalism of just having like one overhead, one snare, one kick mic, but the risk of it too, because it's more on you, the drummer or musician, to kind of mix yourself, you know.
Absolutely.
And I love that. But it's funny. The engineer at my dad's studio here in Tulsa, it's Teegarden Studios. He's pretty into having it all mic'd, every piece, and you know, there's that sounds great too. It's kind of just personal preference, you know.
How did you learn to play? When was the first time or an early experience where you showed up? Maybe you didn't necessarily know the person you were recording with, but you know, you um, honed your sound to the room and learned how to that skill. I think that skill is an underrated skill.
Yes, kind of mixing yourself in a
Mixing
room.
yourself. That's
Yeah.
what mixing yourself. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. Yeah, that like a seminal mixing moment for Matt Teagarden.
I probably early on seen my dad play, and just at jam sessions too, probably just like get into I'd hear him play and then another drummer and it'd be like, man, I can't hear that guy's bass drum at all or anything on this groove. And it'd be like, I remember talking to my dad after that occasion or whatever, and he's like, yeah, they don't hit the bass drum hard enough. I can never hear it. And it's like, yeah, that's really important. And then I think where it really clicked was, you know, reading about John Bonham for sure was, you know, he's only on a few mics and listen to those drums. Like,
Yeah,
it was like, wow, okay, it's really him doing a lot of the work.
yeah. That no, Tony Williams, same kind of thing.
Yes.
You know. So your your dad can't deal with the lack of humanity within the music, like going into Pro Tools and do it's just a little bit too mechanical now. Like he would prefer to do. He just knows the analog.
Yeah, he knows the analog better, but it's funny. We kind of recently had a tape machine for a while, a Studer 24 track,
Sure.
and it was kind of like, oh, he kind of is into it, but you know, once it was kind of time for maintenance, and man, that's expensive.
Yeah.
You got to buy like leader tapes and stuff, and he was like, "Yep, I hate this shit." Uh, let's get rid of it. Let's keep doing Pro Tools, even though it's just so cumulative, you know, the Pro Tools learning curve. It can be. I mean, he's 77 now, and he went to some classes in Nashville, God, 20 years ago for Pro Tools, and kind of got the hang of it. But yeah, he just lets the engineer mainly handle that.
Absolutely.
And I'm just now getting into recording at my own house and stuff, so I'm trying to get versed in it. It's hard.
What are the challenges?
Just like setting up, to me, I mean, it's very silly. It's because I grew up with my dad, but it's just the like opening up a session and then setting the tracks and everything. That's just the hard part for me. It's not the miking and playing is easy, but I'm getting the hang of it a
No,
little
let me
bit.
ask you. I mean, when you say just to a lay person, what does setting the tracks mean? Getting like
Like
level?
getting levels, but then making sure in your software that you have the correct, like, this first mic is in the first track, and then the second mic you just have to like assign and make sure all your inputs are correct, and you just kind of got to really make sure you know what you're doing in that sense.
Why
And
why in a lot of modern pop music have they eliminated the space uh between with the drum it's like very quantized. I just feel like rhythm has become more and more quantized, and you have human beings that are playing machine parts,
of
and
course,
And that, that was, how do you feel like, do you feel like just through your own life force on the bandstand, um, that's your contribution back to getting people to be themselves on, and find their own voice?
Sure, sure. Yeah. I mean, in a way, the drummer is kind of the closest person in layman's terms to the audience. Like, I mean, I know there's a front man singing and stuff, but
Oh, the drummer's
that
the leader of the
drum
band,
beat,
yeah, totally.
yeah,
Yeah,
the human part of drumming.
yeah,
But there's a lot of argument people when they're in the recording process. Well, it's easier to edit and stuff because we're doing it with this click. But yeah, it sure does take away for as a as a drummer, seeing it take away some of the feel that's actually close to humans.
right.
I think it is in the end people don't dig it as much as a real drum kit in the room or real person making rhythm. But
Um, how do you, I mean, can you talk about, um, as far as what you think the greatest qualities of leadership are on the bandstand? Who's the best leader you've worked for?
man, uh good question. Man, probably one of the first guys that comes to mind is a guy here in Tulsa, Paul Benjamin. And he's prolific, dude. Just leads tons of different bands. Because I mean, the Tulsa thing is, and I mean, it's how it is in Nashville and in a lot of places. But there's no one when a band is playing a lot. It's not they don't have one drummer, one set basis. It's got to be a vault changing. It's ancestral here in Tulsa because one guy will be out on the road one week, and so you can't use just one drummer, right?
Right.
And
No, that's interesting. How does that affect? That is interesting because that keeps the music pretty fresh. I mean, unpredictable.
yes, you just kind of have to have a basic form to tell people. But anyway, Paul Benjamin is probably the best at, I mean, band leader I've been around that's just lets you bring your own sound while nicely it asking you maybe bring it back a little bit back to
Yeah.
earth, or something like
Right. No,
lets
just
you
doing it in a
play.
very, yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
Classy way.
But he's not worried about what you're doing. That's kind of a bit like a weird peeve, I guess, of mine is like a guy like worrying about too much of what the other guys are doing. It's just like, man, just play and it'll come together. And if it's
Exactly,
really not,
man.
we'll
Yeah.
talk about it later. But it's hard. It's sometimes hard like that.
Talking to Matt Teegarden here on the Jake Feinberg Show. Where do you feel like you need to grow the most? In your, uh, as a person or a player. I mean, at this point, like,
Sure.
are you explain also how you've cultivated relationships in order to be a full-time musician?
Sure. Yeah, that's the tricky part.
I
It's
know,
tricky cultivating and letting relationships flourish while trying to full-time music it. But it's been really interesting, man. And where I want to grow, I, I don't know. I wouldn't mind the only thing I can think of, I'm very happy with where I am and who I'm playing with and everything and gigs I'm playing, but uh, I personally need to go back into the woodshed and learn to read, like sight read.
interesting,
Really
interesting.
get good at reading charts. I always have this weird, like Catholic guilt, like you need to know how to read. You don't know. I grew up playing. I started on piano, so I know it's in there. I'm versed in it, but I just have been lazy.
Have you lost? get opportunities for studio work because of your reading chops, or just it's something?
Mhm. Probably have lost studio work that I'll never even know of, but I've lost a few gigs because I couldn't read charts, and one probably was permanently scarring. It was just like I played like a musical or something, which was a huge thing. I never even knew what it was like to play, like a Broadway type play as a
Sure,
drummer.
sure.
And oh my God, that was a whole world. I'm glad I did it. It was a crazy experience, but they're like, yeah, we're going to have to get a drummer who can read charts. Sorry. But it was more than it was like, you got to be strong at reading charts and then watching the stage as the people are doing the song. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, honestly,
Kudos to
man,
those
like that
guys.
is, yeah, no, and cats. I mean, that is something that you do have to woodshed on, but
Yes.
like Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, it wasn't a circus thing. It was like a Broadway show.
Yes. Yeah. Like a coordinated dance act, I mean, pretty amazing. So those
What
guys
was
are
starring about? What was
killers.
starring about?
Oh, I think just watching the director, like, oh no, I don't think this guy has ever played a freaking musical. This drummer, that's you can tell when he doesn't know a song, or doesn't know when it's supposed to end right on the dot. But
Uh,
it was funny. I had a lot of friends in that band or whatever, and they're all like, I don't know what's going on either. But it was kind of mainly on me, and but it was a good experience though. I say it was scarring, but it was just like
right.
it solidified my belief those guys are badass players. And yeah, that's I have this yearning for till I die that's like, man, I need to be versed in that area because I can do the feels, shuffle all that, but
I mean, in some ways, the if you can play a really good shuffle, then you're going to not just be employable, but like it's an asset to any blues rock or
yes,
fusion band, to be
big
able to play
time.
that. What's your preferred mic setup on your drum kit when uh what do you think is optimal?
Man, I just just probably I mean I when it just comes down to it, kick, snare, hi-hat, and a cymbal, really. I mean, when it's just like, come on, man, throw and go. Don't know what the gig's gonna be or how big of an area I'll have. But usually I mean I have a rack tom and floor and then like a crash. So two cymbal stands, hi-hat, and then the drums. And I just kind of use a Ludwig snare drum as my main, a Superphonic as my main snare, and tune it on the go, for whatever the gig is.
Wow. Well, how would you describe you said Tulsa is like Nashville. Um, I mean, Nashville seems like I don't know. I have a buddy, Zephaniah O'Hora. I don't know if you ever met him before, but
Oh,
yeah,
sounds familiar.
yeah, he's a singer out of New York, but he just got down there. They're opening a Skinny Dennis too, or a Skinny Dennis Nashville. I don't know
Mm,
if you've ever been to that club in Brooklyn, but um,
no,
yeah. So I'm just wondering how is it that it's still like locally owned support for Tulsa, or is there a lot of uh like I went up to Boise. My brother's the editor of the paper up there, and it's like a lot of banks came in, and like that city is just thriving. But Tulsa strikes me as just much more old school.
it is. It's weird. It is really old school. There's no like backbone of music business here exactly. It's just a bunch of musicians and music lovers.
Wow.
Uh, and I mean, there's not a huge amount of venues or anything, but the few that have it every night, and are killing it right now.
Who is, tell me, the reason that this came together, and it's such an honor, is that I wanted, how did you first connect with brother Jesse Aycock?
Oh heck yeah, yeah! I was gonna bring up Jesse at one point anyway.
Because honestly, like that guy, man, like I mean, I owe you guys a trip. I have to find my way down here to get to
Yeah,
catch.
you need to get out here, man. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's absolutely on the calendar in 24.
heck yeah,
Nashville and Tulsa are on the list. So, it's
heck yeah.
but yeah, with Jesse, like, I'm not going to pretend to know him all that well, but I just love his demeanor and his vibe and sort of
Yes,
his intention for playing music.
yes. You don't have to know Jesse all that well to know Jesse, and he's a sweetheart. Uh, I've known him before I was like on the scene. I just his dad is kind of a prominent Tulsa guy, and has a great radio show here, in a local radio show called Funk
Really?
Salad. Scott Aycock is his dad, and so yeah, and Jesse, God, I'm trying to think, like, speaking of that Paul Benjamin band I was talking about, that my first time playing with Jesse was probably with Paul
Paul
leading the
Bench.
band, and
Yeah,
Jesse's
Paul.
just so instantly uh, a great guy, great friend, and I've just this year played a ton of great gigs with him, and he is the epitome kind of the Tulsa thing, just of playing by ear and playing to the song. Hell of a accompanist and soloist too.
Yeah, I wanted to read this to you in terms of playing with Jesse. This is from
Yeah.
Dennis Coffey, great guitar, one of the Funk brothers out of Motown. He said, you know, he said, each time I never give my guys charts. I give them chord sheets. Stuff just comes out, and afterwards, the guys on the bandstand say, where did that come from? I said, I have no idea. So the point here is introducing original music. Do you guys uh, do a lot of music with charts, or is it all just basically playing by ear?
It's a lot of playing by ear, yeah. Not a lot of charts. Don't, like, if it's in the studio and kind of writing the song on the fly, there'll be chord charts and things. And I mean, a lot of band leaders kind of do now, like, because of this, using different musicians all the time, backing guys.
Right.
They do usually have chord charts somewhere put away or on their phone to send a guy. But
Sure.
usually a lot of the gigs are, yeah, this one's in G and it's a 1 4 5, and yeah, follow me. That's it. It's a shuffle or whatever.
How deep have you played stone jazz gigs in your life?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I kind of grew up playing more traditional like jazz in school and stuff.
Like post bop kind of stuff?
Yeah, bop and post bop. Yeah,
Bop and post bop. Yeah, that's it.
yeah. And so that was interesting growing up with, and then now kind of being in a more lax kind of scene. Tulsa has a great jazz scene, but uh it's kind of small, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like,
But
what was that like? Like, what when you were growing up, like, when you got to a certain level, would you play with your dad?
yeah, yeah. We what one of the best kind of catalysts for gosh, I guess my playing and everything, just getting to know how to play with people was there used to be these Monday night jam sessions
Oh,
at
yeah,
a
I love that.
yeah, at a mansion down, well, kind of near downtown called Harweldon. It's still there and everything, but they have a late night jam session. This guy Ted Moses, he just died a few years ago, but what he would put it on, and it was great. And finally, I grew up, got enough nerve to sit in with the group, so it's kind of like my dad and I got to share each other's licks and stuff. And then later, when I was like a junior, I was 16 or 17 in high school, my dad and I played double drums in a Allman Brothers tribute band called Big Tree, and man, that was super fun. It
Yo,
was
where
kind of
are the
scary
tapes,
at the
dude? Where are
time,
the tapes of that?
dude. There's some somewhere.
Yo, we got to
There's
break that out immediately.
Yes. Yes. And so yeah, there was the birth of my loving like Allman
Woo.
Brothers and stuff. And like cuz I had not really grown up with that. My dad was like, "Yeah, it's some crazy shit." Like just I like my dad was kind of more like, "You got to learn all this stuff so I can follow you, man." And I was like, "Okay." And yeah, went through the catalog, man. Yeah, it was
But
fun.
your
It was
dad
only
was
a
your
few
dad was
gigs, but
inspired. So, because like I mean, did you play that traditional Butch Trucks JMO roles together?
sort of not authentically at all, but
Yeah, I
like
mean, you
I
played your own shit stuff, you know?
yes, I'd follow kind of the main drum beat of the Butch Trucks stuff, and then yeah, my dad would kind of be doing on
I
his
mean, your
own
dad had
JMO
like
stuff.
I mean, the bass, I mean, the pocket is insane.
Yes, his pocket is nuts. Yeah,
I mean, like the Teegarden and Van Winkle. I mean, that stuff, man, is like next level, man. It's unreal.
yeah, it is nuts. Yeah, and no, he was the pocket. No excuses, you know. Um,
Were they able to road dog it as a unit? Were they going across the
yeah,
states?
oh, a ton. Yeah, that's where I think my dad saw the most of touring was with Skip. He had made I forget, I think it was a guy in California that would cut down B3s and put them in a kind of road case.
Right.
And Skip did that. And then he came up with doing the bass rig. So he wouldn't have his bass pedals going through the Leslie, you know, because it womp womp womp. It would kind of make a wompy sound. He'd have those going through like a Fender Bassman amp, and then would have the Leslie. But God, I can't imagine the load in and stuff. But it was just drums and that. And I know they up in Michigan had roadies that would travel with them and stuff. But yeah, they traveled a ton, played tons of colleges and everything, tons of festivals up north.
I mean, dude, to me, I'm just looking here. It says the duo took its brand of folksy rock to Detroit. I'm like, I mean, when I hear those guys are like a freaking uh organ jazz group. I mean,
Yes,
they're not playing standards, but like
no,
they are going for it. It's fucking
yes,
burning shit.
yes, yeah. It's crazy. It's like I mean, I think they cut their teeth here in Tulsa and in LA a bunch, just having to do jazz gigs and all kinds of gigs. Kind of, you know, like the theory of the Beatles, the 10,000 hour. Then in Hamburg, they played their asses off so much. They playing jazz, all of that stuff
Right.
to suit whoever in the audience. I think Skip and my dad had a ton of that they had done. They tried to go to LA in the mid 60s, but they were so young. They couldn't play anywhere.
Wow.
But
Wow.
yeah.
Wait, hold on. Well, you got to go back to that. Uh, Skip would not play the organ through the Leslie speaker? It was the other way around?
So I mean, like the keys were going through the Leslie, but the bass pedals were going through like a Fender Bassman or some type of
Right, dude, that is insane 'cause it sounded better.
yeah, and that's the modern day. Like a lot of keyboard players now will have a bass rig where they have like their lower keys split and going through a low amp.
Oh
It's
man.
cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah, man.
amazing.
Wow. Well, so tell me a seminal musical experience with Jesse Acott.
Hmm. Man, first thing that comes to mind is and I played a awesome gig with him. God, I think pre-COVID, 5, 6 years ago now, with the Kate brothers. It was like a
Stop right
double
there. Stop
drummer.
right there, dude.
Yeah.
Dude. Okay, what an honor that you said. I'm going to send you my interview with them. I did like 10 years ago, about
Oh,
8 years ago.
please.
Dude, Earl, both those cats,
Yeah.
legend. Go ahead. So how'd you get the gig with them?
I think it was through Jesse, maybe. I mean, I can't, it was probably like 15 guitar players on stage. It was this guy. God, my memory is awful. It was in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and at a place I can't remember the venue, but a guy puts on kind of this all-star jam, and Isaiah Warford is his name,
Or
and he got Jesse, a bunch of Tulsa guys on it, but Terry Cagle was the other drummer, and it was
dude,
me
rest in
on
peace,
drums.
man.
Yes, God rest his
Dude,
soul.
I swear to you,
Amazing.
man, I called, you know who I called? You're gonna love this, dude. You know Ronnie
Yeah.
Enos?
Yes.
Yes. So I called Ron because I wanted to interview Cable. This is like last year.
Uh huh.
And he's like, dude, he passed. So I mean, dude, Terry Cagle, amazing drummer.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was as close as I'll ever get to playing with Levon and stuff. And
Hold on a second.
as
You played
far
with
as I'm concerned,
what you played with Cagle?
yeah, yeah, double drummed with him, and it was amazing. It was like watching a version of Levon and playing some of uh the band's songs, and then it was funny having to do. It was kind of like a ring around the rosy, like, okay, this artist, we're gonna do 5 of his songs. Now this artist, Jesse, get up and you're gonna do a Blind Faith song, and we did Presence of the Lord, and it has like an odd time signature part or something in it. And it's funny playing that with Terry. He was just like, I don't fucking know. I'll follow you, man. But it was great. That was a very special night. And I got to see him not long before he passed play here in Tulsa, maybe about a year ago or more. And it was great. He remembered me and everything. And John Davies, shout out to him. Their bass player is a great guy that facilitates a lot of great playing and everything. He was on that all-star gig, and I was like, man, this bass player is awesome. We're instant best friends. And
Unbelievable.
it was great. All those guys in the Kate brothers. Earl is just a legend. I just love that man, and he's known my dad since they were children. Just about. My dad was playing with a band in Arkansas in the early '60s.
What?
Yeah, I think it
Oh
was the
my
MCs or
God.
something, and
He
Earl
and
was like, "Yeah,
Levi
I
knew
used
each
to watch
other.
your dad with him." Yeah,
Oh, wait, him and Levi were boys, right? He knew Levi?
yeah, I believe he did. Yeah, I mean, I think they were all kind of Arkansas boys. Yeah,
Your dad was all over the place, man. He
yeah,
was
it's crazy. It's crazy.
in Tulsa. Why he was down there he was underage playing a blues gig or something?
Uh, I don't know what it would have been. Some band, the MCs, he was playing in Arkansas with, I think. But yeah, I mean, he dropped out of. I didn't find this out till after I got through high school, but he dropped out of high school and was touring and everything, living with bands and
Right. No, no,
everything.
I mean, that was part, well, I mean, it was so lucrative to go on the road, you know?
Yes, yeah, it was a kind of no-brainer at that
I
time.
mean,
Yeah,
you spent days in hotels and stuff too.
yeah,
You know, I mean, it was like you'd spend like, I guess that's the point. Once, as a musician, because your dad was spending a month at the same venue. And, that was,
yes,
and that was the cool thing. Like, it was people would basically. I'm not trying to replicate that, but what does it do to a musician and a band when you're able to be able to play in the same space for an extended period of time, as opposed to all these relentless one night stands?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a shame. It's something that I kind of don't even know, but it's prime to do that because you actually these one night deals. Oh, it gets old in
Yeah,
America. Just you don't get to enjoy. Oh, we're in Lubbock. There's a Buddy Holly museum here. Well, we don't have any time because we have to go play New Orleans the next night. Oh, there's so much to do there. Well, we're getting there right before we set up, and we set up and we play, and then we got to go somewhere else. So all you really get to see is McDonald's and come and go,
wow.
or
Yeah, I did.
Wawa or whatever your local convenience store is.
Wawa is great. Yeah.
Wawa is great. You learn to appreciate those places. I hated them a few years ago, but so much touring, I'm like, okay, I'll take any sign of food place.
So that, I mean, that to me, that's because also, like, no, not there not being a budget for like an adequate road group, stuff like that. Where it
Yeah,
would like take where like you could be back for sound check, but you wouldn't be have to set up all the stuff yourself all the time. I mean, that to me is like just coming off the road with Grateful Shred for 3 days. I just uh they were able to like sleep on the tour bus for 3 days,
yeah.
and actually be stationary. But now they're like 7 shows in 7 nights,
Oh man.
and so it's just uh, it's unfair to the musician to have to do it all.
Yes, yeah, I hear you. You're preaching to the choir there.
Right. I mean, what do you got coming up for the end of the
Man,
year? And yeah, what do you got that you're looking forward to?
let's see. I with again mentioning that Paul Benjamin band, I'm touring with him in Colorado at the end of this month and beginning of December. Just God, going all over the place. Vale, uh, all kind of college towns
Well,
and stuff. And then I'm really excited. I'm playing Kane's Ballroom, kind of our primo venue here in Tulsa on New Year's Eve. I'm playing this year. I started playing with a guy J.R. Carroll, and he's kind of country Americana, and he's really blowing up this year. And we're playing a sold out Canes show with a bunch of people. Tommy Prine, I think John Prine's son,
wow.
is on it, and a girl Caitlin Butts, I believe. And yeah, that's exciting. He's got an album we recorded recently with JR that'll be coming out next year. So plenty of things to be excited about.
Yeah, man, that is absolutely beautiful. You know, do you feel like grateful for your life and for what how your life is unfolding? I mean, to me, gratitude is staying humble and being grateful. Uh, leads to further enlightenment.
Yes, yes, yeah. I mean, forever grateful. Um, and I don't know. I feel in a good place, and like all it's just good seeing all these Tulsa bands flourishing and everything
Flourishing.
forever.
Flourishing is a strong word.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and I mean, Taylor Swift is flourishing, I guess you could say, but I just
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
musically and just proper recognition. And it does seem like there is a bit of a backbone coming into Tulsa with music business, and musicians are now like, hey, wait, I need to stand up for myself, and I need to make merch, and I need to be making money and not paying other people to make money necessarily. And so it's great. It's a great time. It's a good time to be playing and stuff. I know there's a lot to knowing how my dad grew up making great money just touring as in a crummy van and stuff, but it's not like that anymore. So it's kind of interesting finding new ways to get attention. You know.
What's one new way that sort of entrepreneurially, like, to me, it's about, as a journalist, it's about creating content. Hopefully, it's quality content, and it's not about you, and but it's like about some sort of point of view, and you burrow in on like intensity and energy. But for the
Yeah.
musician, like, so like, and that has a cosmic effect in terms of like connecting me. Uh, you know, a month ago, one of my interviews was picked up by the New York Times,
Mm.
and because of this person, Cad Russell Batiste from the Batiste family in New Orleans, who
Oh.
passed away. And I did this cosmic interview with him 2 months before, and the obit writer for the New York Times found it and quoted me, referred to me as Mr. Feinberg. And it's like, and it's like, so, you know, the point is that was done through a totally different medium, of being able to sell yourself, which is what you're talking about.
Yes.
As a musician, what are some of the new ways of trying to, promote Matt Teegarden?
Man, yeah, good question again. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about a lot is I get this little studio of my own set up and I want to be able to, track drums remotely or whatever is definitely it seems like I mean social media, Instagram is huge.
Huge.
It's huge. Yeah. I was just literally sitting around thinking this week, like, man, I need to make a video that shows that me playing drums in the studio and has them sounding sick, super great. So, and make it kind of funny or something so it gets attention. But like, I mean, with all the bands I play with, they have kind of that same thing going. They kind of have a shtick on social media or something with one of the kind of main bands I play with, Seth Lee Jones, he is huge on Instagram because he's a guitar builder. So he builds amazing looking guitars and then has amazing video content of him playing these guitars and us playing. I mean, he's just like a super shredder. And and I mean, every week he'll send me, look, I mean, this guy Blake Mills liked my video or something. It's always like, oh my god, huge. And
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
kind of,
do. It's
man, I need to be posting some stuff like that too. Even though it's great, I'm happy I'm playing behind him in these videos and stuff. But it's like, man, yeah, I gotta catch up.
well, I mean, do it in the most organic way. When you feel like you need to, put something out, like, make sure it's done as organically as possible.
Of course, yeah, and I'm totally all about that. Like, yeah, it's easy to I don't know, kind of be weird or cringy on some of this stuff, like ask two handed and too much of a handout in a way, like, hey, you know, I see what you're doing with
Right,
the I see your deal.
right. No, and dude, it's really been an honor to connect with you, man. I look forward to, getting down to Tulsa. Are you doing any touring between in the next
So
few months or no, or what are you
yeah,
doing?
like I said, I'll be touring with Paul Benjamin in Colorado,
Right.
mainly December,
Is
early
that like a
December.
two nighter kind of thing?
Let me see. I'm sorry. I have it. I had it pulled up in my phone. No, it's like a 2 week ordeal. So
It's an ordeal, yeah.
ordeal, I call it, but that's just I'm being cynical.
No,
Uh,
man, no, but I appreciate where you're coming from and your contributions to the music and your willingness to continue to grow as a person and a player, dude. You're staying on your path, bro.
well, thank you, man. I can't help but keep doing it. I know
Right.
nothing
It's all you
else.
know how to do it. And I would love if you tell your dad I'm gonna be coming for him. I'd love to do an interview with him.
Yes, man. That's how I had originally heard of you. Was Jesse had gotten me, uh, given me your name. It was one you were wanting to do an interview with my dad, and yeah, we got to do that.
All right, so just let him know it would be a high honor, uh, and whatever he wants to do it over the phone or over Zoom, whatever he prefers. But if he's up for it, I would really love it.
Yes, heck yeah. And I mean, for ease for him, you can just call me or whatever. We can set up. I can facilitate it, so he doesn't
Perfect.
have to screw with his
All right, so
phone.
yeah, we'll be in touch about it, and then we'll set a time.
Awesome. Well,
No,
it's a
man,
pleasure talking to you, man. Such a pleasure.
this was a jam, man. I really, I started off with scrambled eggs here. It was a good jam.
Heck yeah, that's right, man.
All right, man. Yeah, I'll be cool. I'll talk to you really soon, man.
All right, take care. You have a good one, man.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Later.